Hello, people of YouTube. My name is Steve Gray. Thank you for watching. Today we're talking about My Hero Academia Season 7, Episode 12. It is back after a week of being delayed for a second time. Yup, there's some aggravation there. And just what a delightful, fantastic episode overall. You got the drama, you got the emotion, you got the character development, you got the funny, you got the sacrifice, all that fun stuff. And it looks like the heroes are really badly backed into a corner after this one. So let's go ahead and get into it. We hear, we see the first user of One for All here talking to Deku, basically saying something is happening with his brother. We'll go ahead and skip past all that jazz. We kind of have Bakugo being dead here, essentially, is what's happening. As well, Shigaraki mocking them, if you will. Mirako got her other good arm ripped off. Like, can we leave Mirako alone? I mean, relax. It's like a police officer. With Shigaraki being the police officer, if you get that reference, I feel like that's what it seems like. They just keep ripping limbs off of her. Let her go, for the love of God! Stop ripping limbs off. She's only got one leg left to stand on. I think at this point, it's kind of ridiculous. We have Dabi figured out how to do the power absorption that Shoto figured out in order to neutralize it, and now he is even stronger. So yeah, Dabi's back. Who knew? You have Skeptic. Dabi wants to get to Endeavor. I think he's kind of done with Shoto at this point and wants to go to Endeavor. So that's his plan. He wants to kill Endeavor, which is why he's yelling at the Nomu, because I guess the Nomu all have some sort of communication pieces in them. But apparently Skeptic pretty much built the world's network because they were so worried about defense, they outsourced it to other countries, and he was the guy that essentially created the whole network, so he can hack into it very easily, knock anything down that he wants. You have these little kids that, when Bakugo had to go redo his preliminary hero license training because he failed, and had to interact with these kids. They're rooting for him and saying, don't worry, he'll do it, not knowing that he is dead as of this moment. We then go to All for One, and we get to see his face for the first time, like his actual face. We also learn that this is a derivative of Erie's quirk, but unlike Erie's quirk, where eventually it does stop, and, the rewind stops, if he uses it, he is going to essentially die. He is going to rewind into non-existent. At least that's my understanding. We see the doctor here who has been captured. Him talking about him analyzing the old bullet, the quirk destroying bullet from the Shigaraki, if I'm saying that correctly. The deleter round. There we go. That's what they're calling. So he didn't actually steal Erie's quirk per se, not directly from Erie, but he was able to kind of make a copy of it as a last resort. And the doctor's like, the only thing I miss is your original voice and your original face, which is kind of creepy. But yeah, we see him here essentially go back to his prime. He is significantly younger, but eventually he is going to, pop out of existence, and everything's going to be left to Shigaraki. So this is his trump card. He's saying he can't believe that Endeavor made him do this, but, it is what it is. I don't know if he fully stole this woman's quirk. I'm not sure what her quirk even is, but it looks like he stole it as well. But he was like, yeah, he passed the baton to Shigaraki, so I think he is almost at the point of fully controlling Shigaraki's body. Not really sure. He's talking about he's also talking about how he wants the world to be like his old comic books, where the villains were actually the ones that took over everything as well. And that is basically ruining the future of the entire world. So that's his ultimate goal, is ruining the future of the entire world, and that was kind of crazy too. But yeah, there is All For One in his prime, I would say. White hair, white eyes. He can breathe again. He was like, oh, this body's as light as a feather, too. So I feel like there's a lot of quirks he probably doesn't even need anymore, like the sensory quirks. So he might get rid of them if needed, or however that works. But maybe he finds somebody with an aging quirk real quick, and then he can kind of counterbalance Erie's quirk. But that's got to take a strain on you because you're constantly toying between the two quirks. We go to the United States, where basically they're saying that because they let Shigaraki get to where he was, that if he wins, they're pretty content with basically being his bitch. I think is the best way to describe that. They're gonna be like, yeah, we're just gonna figure out what he's saying and do whatever he says until we can figure out a point where we can actually defeat him. That's where they are at least what I can see here. Talking about, passing the dreams on to the next generation. We then see Edshot. So this is, I think, how Bakugo is going to come back to life. I'm not really sure. But Edshot, I didn't realize, went to school with Best Jeanist. Best Jeanist apparently at the time was the president of the class. So he's basically saying, we need Bakugo for this. So I am going to sacrifice myself to save Bakugo. So he's going to essentially become Bakugo's new heart, turn into extremely thin thread, patch up everything inside of Bakugo, and get him going again, and most likely die in the process. And we see him kind of doing that, stitching him up, everything along those lines. So as of this episode, that doesn't really happen, but I think probably sometime next episode, Bakugo will be good to go again. I'm not really sure. But Shigaraki's kind of mad about it. He was like, no, you don't get to undo what I already destroyed. So he's pretty angry about that. Here we have Miro kicking the crap out of him as well. I think he's talking about how, for a split second, he actually did feel fear from Bakugo. So he really hates Bakugo at this point in time because he was the one that injured his face, made him blind in his one eye. At least I think he's blind because it's not showing the pupil. At least that's my best guess. But yeah, Miro loses her arm here as well, continues to kick the crap out of him. And he is actually turns into a defensive mode. He still beats up Nejire, Sun Eater, rips off Miro's arm, as I mentioned. And then his body is realizing that, okay, we need to go into defense mode because we are getting hit. And I think these are all of his fat. You see the faces kind of developing in his weird skin type deal. I want to say that's his family members. So if you remember when we first saw him, he was covered in the hands of his loved ones. And I think that's essentially what he's doing again, is you see the hands all over his body kind of acting as a defensive shell and turn into a new ideal for him in this particular moment. So at that point, beats everybody away. He basically tells Lemillion that he's useless. He was like, in this situation, you can't physically hurt me. I'm done, wasting my time on your distractions. Get out of here. We then learn that Midoriya is very close by. They're going to open the barrier for a quick, 2 seconds. Then you distract him for 2 seconds. Best Jeanist at that point thinks it's an eternity. Lemillion is just wondering, what the heck can I do to distract him for 2 seconds? And then that is where we get the best distraction of all time. Let's go ahead and skip to it. And bam! Look at these fine peaches. This reminds me, I love this scene because it reminds me so much of Naruto, actually. Naruto, one of the first animes that I saw outside of, I think, Dragon Ball Z. I don't think I ever actually saw original Dragon Ball in its entirety, but because I know I definitely saw Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT. Never really got into Super, but this was kind of like one of the second or third. Naruto was one of the second or third animes I got into. I know Yu Yu Hakusho was somewhere in the mix there too. Dating myself a little bit here. But Naruto, during the Chunin exams, accidentally farts. And because Kiba has a super sense of smell, gets a whiff of it, and it's enough to put him off of his game for a couple of seconds so he can get his composure back. And Lemillion doing this throws him off for a couple of seconds as a distraction, at which point Deku comes to save the day. Izuku Midoriya beats the crap out of him, and I think this is where we're going to get him defeated. Because, I mean, he has all of his quirks erased. Izuku is pretty powered up right now. You know, he's in tip-top shape. He didn't really have to deal with fighting Toga at all, which I'm assuming we're going to see that battle between Toga and Uraraka sooner or later. But, yeah, he is here to save the day. The only thing that I can think of that would be a problem is if All For One kind of just yeets Hawks and Endeavor out of the way in order to go to this fight. Because then, you know, I don't think he can... You would essentially have to have one person looking at All For One and one person looking at Shigaraki, and I don't know if between the two of them, they individually, anyway, can stop all of that abilities, or he'll just kill Eraserhead and the Phantom Copier, if you will. I'm not sure how that would all pan out either, so we'll just have to wait and see. This one's getting a 10 out of 10. Honestly, definitely deserves a rewatch. All I can say is if Bakugo is actually alive, which I'm pretty confident he is because Edshot is sacrificing himself to save him, so that would make sense. Otherwise, you're wasting that hero's death. So 9 out of 10, Bakugo is coming back alive next episode, or at least the next couple. I wish they put that in here, like maybe end it with Bakugo waking up or something. That's really my only complaint. Sure, there's a couple of still images maybe that aren't the best. It happens in a lot of anime, but because it's moving so quickly, you don't notice it. Your eye can't catch it anyway. So, but overall, great episode. Definitely worth a rewatch. Sucks we had to wait 2 weeks to see it, but here it is. It is fantastic. So subscribe for more, like, follow, share. Stay tuned tomorrow for a shorter video of Tower of God. That'll be happening tomorrow. And as always, have a good one.